Hey, welcome to Wine Jam with me, Some Cash, where I'm doing a movie review, which is the Wine and War film that's just recently come out. The basis of this film, or I should say documentary, is about winemakers in Lebanon making wine during a period of time during 1996 where there was heavy war activities going on in their country, yet these winemakers were still making wine. So let's take a quick peek into the actual film.
Stronger wine than a wine made in a region where there is war.
We live in a bad neighborhood. With Israel to the south, we've now got a war-torn Syria to our east, and even within our own society, there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of friction.
Return to being a war zone at any moment.
This wine is being made in a civil war. How does that work?
I've never tasted any wine like it before. It's so distinctive.
All right, guys, so Wine and War is quite an interesting particular documentary. It looks at the situation at hand that was going on in Lebanon, which was a lot of war was being taken place in that time. It's kind of almost only ever been known for war when it came to news or media or any other aspects when it came to Lebanon, and it's kind of dominated their headlines. Whereas this documentary really looks at the people who are making the wines during this pretty incredible time. And if you know nothing about Lebanese wines, if you know nothing about the wines that are coming out of Lebanon, I would highly recommend you to watch this particular documentary. It's got both filmmakers, Mark and Mark, who I spoke to recently about making the film itself, which took them around 7 years to actually make the film. So it's an incredible feat in its own right. They are predominantly filmmakers who have done films in the past looking at war in that aspects, but with this one they wanted to go down the route of showing the people that were making this wine in a really extraordinary time. If you imagine just even making wine generally in a winery, it's pretty hard. A lot of difficulties that come your way, where it's finances, where it's getting the vines up and running, whether it's getting people on board, but they're doing it while there's a war going on. And it's pretty incredible that they were able to get the filming done in the first place. Like the talk that I had with them with the interview, they talked about how they even stayed in certain places for a month just so that they could almost live rent free. They were having to go through so much paperwork just to get the filming rights for this particular documentary being made. It's quite a marvel that it's done. I thoroughly enjoyed it, whether it's talking about personal stories from each and individual winemakers, how it's affected them emotionally, how it's affected them while making the wine, even getting the wines transported was difficult, with real risk of their own lives trying to do it. So it's definitely one I would say you have to go and watch and see. It's on wineandwar.com to watch the video. Yeah, definitely check it out. It was, for me, my own personal take was I thought it was fascinating insight. I personally thought that after I'd spoken to the filmmakers, actually, that maybe they should have put a lot of cuts from their own time trying to make the film in some ways, because it would have shown the struggle, I think, as a more, maybe for themselves, as the kind of accurate picture of how much of a struggle it is just to film this, would have given us also really good insight into just how difficult it must have been for those winemakers during that time to do that in kind of impossible position that they're in. And even with wine, some of them coming out of Syria at the moment, again, that's kind of a very current conflict that we know that's been happening, and yet they're producing wines which are of really good nobility. So yeah, that's kind of all I need to really say about it. Is definitely check it out if you know nothing about Lebanese wines or the Lebanon region when it comes to the winemakers out there. And now there's around 50 or so wineries now who are producing, but it's quite an incredible story. So yeah, it's a thumbs up for me. Go check it out.